Hello, everyone. I'm hoping that you can see my main screen. Happy 2025. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us during what has been, to say the least, quite a chaotic week. So, we are going to turn that around. We have a very special speaker today to help us reflect, to help us be resilient, and to help us maintain great leadership within our spheres of influence. We're so happy that you're here today. Our topic is Look Back and See Forward. It's going to be presented by Shannon Hughes, the founder of Enlivened Studios. My name is Becca Wright, and I welcome you on behalf of CTN. We're going to get started. Today's webinar is sponsored by Enlivened Studios, which Shannon, I'm sure, will talk a little bit more about. Please engage in the chat. Please ask your questions, introduce yourself, make comments along the way. Shannon is going to try to address those as she can. Please also stick around toward the end. The last 5 or 6 minutes, we're going to make some important announcements about our next webinar, which is also really exciting. And we're going to do our giveaway. We're going to give away free enrollments to our online management course that's called Managing Digital Navigators, because this is a management-focused webinar. And it's a $300 value, and you must be present to win. If you want to learn more about this course, and all of our other online courses, we want you to just take a look at this link super quick, and that can give you more information. Without further ado, I would like to introduce CTN's fearless leader, Cami Griffiths. She needs almost no introduction in this group, but she is our executive director and co-founder of CTN, and she is a fearless advocate of all sorts of digital inclusion initiatives, including this webinar. And we're really excited to have her kick off 2025. So Cami, I'll turn it over to you to turn it over to Shannon.
Thank you so much. And Becca, I really appreciate your leadership in making these webinars happen. Literally wouldn't happen without you. So really excited to be part of this first webinar of the year. We have an exciting lineup. So each month we offer a free webinar like this on a variety of topics, with always the intersection of digital equity, so we can support the wider community of practitioners. So watch out for more information about upcoming webinars. So I'd like to introduce Shannon. I met her in 2020. Like, I had to dig deep into my email. I'm like, how did I meet Shannon? But through that time, we had lots of calls, lots of planning, how could we work together? And ultimately, we hired Shannon to facilitate a staff retreat in 2023 and some subsequent materials that came out of that. So it's been a joy to work with her. She has this energy and ideas, and I just really appreciated having her support a couple of years ago when we were working together. There were some dark times that I had to go through, and she really helped me through some things. So I want to quickly read her bio so you understand a little bit more about Shannon. She is an experiential facilitator and leadership advisor committed to unlocking the power of high impact teams so that they stay, build together, and thrive. Through her practice in Enlivened Studios, she blends strategic business mentorship with experiential teaching to cultivate people-first cultures and foster inclusive, purposeful leadership. With over 20 years of experience in corporate marketing, HR strategy, and leadership development, Shannon brings both skill and heart to every engagement. Her core belief is that an improv mindset can change the world, fostering belonging and share of voice through a practice of yes and versus yeah but. Her work is rooted in the values of connection, creativity, family, and inclusivity, which form the culture of Enlivened Studios and sit at the forefront of every client partnership. So with that, Shannon, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Cami and Becca and Alejandra, and thank you all for being here. Yes, I think it's suffice to say we're going through a lot. We will continue to. We have in 2024, and today we're going to talk about resilience and recharging and the amazing work that you all are doing and that we will collectively continue to do and what it takes to do that work. So with that, I will dive into I really use slides as a guide. I really want to emphasize how important and encouraged it is to use the chat, connect with each other. If you have a moment or something resonates with you, say, hey, Joy, I love what you just said. Here's my email, right? We can't go this alone. It takes a village to do the work that you do. And it's so important to use these opportunities not only to listen and participate in a webinar and hear the speaker and whatnot, but also to see yourselves as part of this awesome, awesome community that CTN has created. So strongly encouraged. We've got some folks on the call that will be managing the chat. If there's questions that come up along the way or thoughts, I'll also be using the chat and some other interactive tools so that we can make our way through this together. All right, let me get my slides pulled up here. If I can find them the right way. Yes, here they are. Let me put this in presentation mode.
And we see them just fine, Shannon.
Lovely. Lovely. Gosh, I see that date, January 30th. It's hard to believe it's almost February. Can I get a thumbs up on that one? Okay. Let's see, click this little button here. I'm not going to read this. Cami, you did a lovely job introducing me. Yes, I talk a lot about culture building. I work a lot with leaders like you who have mission and vision and their why front and center in every piece of business and every work, every day of work that you do. So that's really what I thrive on, what makes me feel most alive. And when I work with people, I say, and you can just see a note there at the bottom, I'm your guide on the side. I am not a sage on the stage. I have no interest in showing up and pontificating from behind a podium about all the things that I know. The wisdom and the genius is in the room. And I am very cognizant of that. And that is especially true today. So what are we going to do today? Our journey, a little bit of welcome. We're in the middle of that now. Talk about who we are. And, we are, of course, a group of people here on a webinar. We are leaders in our own right. We are doing Herculean efforts to raise awareness and build capacity and change lives all around the country, if not the world. And we are individuals, right? We are a team, we are a community, and we are individuals. And I only mention that because sometimes we kind of think in binaries. We're either ourselves doing our work alone sometimes, or there's a perception that we're alone, or we're in community. And it's this idea of let's root down in who we are as individuals so that we can bring our whole selves to our work and recognize not only that individuality in ourselves and what we believe in and what makes us tick, but also having those opportunities to see that in others. Reflection exercise, I've got a few of those, just some time to maybe get your pen and your paper out. Like I said, we'll use the chat. I also have another interactive tool that I'll put the link into chat in just a minute here so we can generate a word cloud together, which is kind of fun. And I also have some tips and tools for balance and well-being. I will go through some of those today on the call, and then I also have a free download that I want to make available to everyone so they can dive deeper on some of those practices if they resonate with you. And then we'll close. I will be kind of doing my thing for, let's see, until about 10 minutes to the hour, and then I'll hand it back to Becca and the team to close things out and send us on our way. So we should be out of here right on time. So yeah, Cami mentioned in the introduction, the lovely introduction there, improv. Now, bear with me. A lot of people, when they think about improv, think about whose line is it anyway, right? Or Tina Fey on Saturday Night Live. Or sometimes you think about maybe you've been to an improv show. Has anyone seen an improv show, an improv comedy show, been to one live? You can either raise your real hand or your virtual hand. Nice. Nice, great. Amazing. So then you know, and even if you haven't been to an improv show, you know that improv is an unscripted performance where actors get on stage and they create something that's never been seen before and will never be seen again. And oftentimes it's created with one single offer from an audience member. I talk about improv in this way. I borrow from my peers, Patrick and Jill, in this powerful, in my sense, powerful definition of improv, because this really speaks to why I believe that an improv mindset, especially in leadership, can quite literally change the world. Improv is a highly refined system of observing, connecting, and responding. Improv is a highly refined system of observing, connecting, and responding. So yes, we laugh. Yes, we pay money to sit in an audience and give suggestions and watch a great show, and it's funny and it's entertaining. And the tenets of improv can change the world if they're put into practice on the daily. So what are some of those tenets of improv? And I just like to use this as kind of a foundational part of my hello, nice to meet you part of my talks, because you'll hear me reference things that are about improv, and I like to just kind of level set and give an understanding as to why. So there are a number of tenets and practices and rules, I guess you could say, of improv that really allow and invite performers to create magic on stage. And here are some of them. Make your partner look good. Now, kind of think when you think about these words and these sentiments, think about what they might mean for you as a leader. Make your partner look good. Play the scene you're in. Play the scene you're in. As far as improv go, a lot of time is about presence. Be in the moment you're in, not in the moment that's coming ahead or the moment that's gone behind. Oftentimes that looks like fear, regret. Play the scene you're in. See mistakes as gifts. Now, of course, there are mistakes that are really high stakes, and those aren't the ones we're talking about. But how can we stay agile and fluid and see mistakes as gifts to learn from and grow from? And notice all the offers. I'll explain a little bit more about offers in a bit. But it's basically, how do we see what's on stage or see what's in our conference room or see what's happening in our teams? And how do we pick up on those verbal and nonverbal offers to lean in and use those as opportunities to connect or potentially practice our curiosity? And of course, anyone who's familiar with improv would know the number one tenet of improv is yes and. Yes and. And quick clarification, in yes and, although we often think about the word yes, right? When we think about the word yes, it means to agree. Yes, I agree. Yes, yes, right? And the opposite in a binary way is no. There's yes and there's no. In improv, the word yes means to receive. To receive. And the word and is to acknowledge and build. So if we're in a meeting and Becca says to me, gosh, you know what? I think for our offsite retreat, we should go to that super awesome hotel in San Francisco, and we should have it catered. And maybe that sounds great. We have all the budget in the world. Maybe not. Either way, I say yes and, because I'm receiving and acknowledging that Becca made an offer to me in the way of an idea, in the way of an insight. So how do we practice yes and rather than no but, which is our default, as a way to connect and make people feel seen, heard, whole, and valued? So I just wanted to kind of set the stage with some of that so that when I talk about improv, you're not going, oh my God, is she going to make us do a show and spotlight us on Zoom and make us do funny things? No, no, no. If any of that's going through your mind, take it off the table. It's not happening today. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about you. And I am going to encourage you at this point, please, to open up your chat if you would. Make sure that on the to line, it says to : make sure it says everyone. Otherwise, you'll be direct messaging somebody, which is also okay. But let's use the chat. And what I'd invite us to do, and I'll give us a moment here, and this is an invitation to allow some creative spark to rise to the surface here, right? We are talking about resilience, which in my vein and the work we do also requires a bit of creativity and kind of on the spot thinking here. I would like to invite you all to use the chat and put in there a 6-word bio, a 6-word bio about yourself. And I'll show you what it looks like. Let's see. Let's see. I'm just, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Joyful mom and entrepreneur loving life. Yes, Cami. Beautiful. Keep them coming. Making connections for those that need. Lucas, that's gorgeous. Alejandra, honest, compassionate, loving friend and daughter. Dina, dedicated to, my screen keeps jumping, dedicated to helping others in need. Lara, not sure, but what the heck. Equity driven. Oh, started slowly, found my voice, mother, wife, professional. World adventurer, enjoying life, learning, training from Julie. Casey, that is a mic drop. Casey says, I do the right thing, even when no one's looking. I never give up anything. Innovation, innovative thinker, social justice networker, mother, coffee lover, inquisitive. Joy says, innovative thinker, always up for challenges. Regina cares deeply, engages, laughs, loves, prays. Thank you. Keep them coming if you feel inspired. And the thing that I like to point out and take a moment too to read one another's 6-word bios here. What I like to point out here is this idea of there in story, there is universality in the specifics. So Chip or Carolyn or Adam, you all might have your own specific story, your own specific nuances to your 6-word bio, for example, in this exercise. And oftentimes we can see each other in the specifics of one another's lives, right? So you might share a story about your child's first day at school and how challenging it was. And I may not have a child who had a first day at school, but guess what? If we're sharing emotion and there's a level of vulnerability and there's a share, I'm going to find myself in that story somewhere. Maybe I don't have a kid that went to school for the first day, but I have something else that left me with that mix of excitement and anxiety and joy. And I can pull those strings and see myself in your story. So sharing things like this, or oftentimes I talk, especially because we're a room full of leaders, many of us may be managing teams, holding meetings, making strategic decisions, giving feedback, motivating people. None of these exercises or ideas are, patented. Oftentimes I say, open your meetings like this. Hey guys, we're going to start our meeting today in a really interesting way. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Will you write your 6-word bio? See what comes up. See what comes up. Beautiful. Alejandra, I think I'm on top of the chat, but is there any questions that I'm missing here? I don't think so.
Any questions? I think everyone is just very appreciative and they're feeling good about these bios.
Great. Thank you. Oh, I'm just seeing Trisha. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I love arranger. Awesome. Great. All right. So just another, this is more evidence, not that you needed any in the beginning, because this is CTN. So obviously you are a group of conscious, amazing leaders just because you're here. And take a look at the chat. If you see something in there, oh my gosh, I consider myself an achiever too. Wow, you live in California? So do I. Heart one another's things and connect. Use this as a chance. Like I said earlier, it takes a village. And I know I'm preaching to the choir on that one. Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Webster's definition of resilience: the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, and the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape, elasticity. And I like this second one because, we're not objects, but we're people, and we do spring back into shape, whether it's making our way through a challenge and coming back because we're human, and innate to being human is being resilient. We also have neuroplasticity on our side, right? We put things into practice that are new and different, and we do them a number of times. And guess what? Your brain rewires. I taught it. I did an assembly. I sometimes go to a local school and I lead a talk about improv and play improv games with like 300 little kids. It's awesome. But I did this one thing about, I said, did you know that you can literally change your mind? I said, we talk about like, we're changing our mind. I changed my mind. And then we talked about the fact that we really can change our mind because neuroplasticity is a real thing and it's on our side. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some tips and tools and practices, things that we can keep top of mind. And as is true for any webinar, anywhere, any teacher, any conversation, take what works for you and resonates and leave the rest. I'm giving you permission to do that because some of these things you're going to go, that's not my thing. Great. Put it to the side. Take what does. Wonderful. I just saw your village clown reference, Adam. Let me pause for a second because I do want this to be as interactive and conversational as possible. Does anything strike you or come up for you, or questions, or anything resonant that's top of mind for you that you might want to come off mute and share? Sky, yes, I see your hand raised.
So just the concept of resilience and the fact that we as a human body tend to speak to resilience as being this amazing trait, like, oh, you're so resilient, when the truth of the matter is that, those of us that are truly resilient in life are somewhat tired of being resilient and would honor a break in life. So I just want to kind of throw that out there, the fact that, being considered resilient is a superpower, but that it also is tiring.
Thank you. Anyone else resonate with Sky's?
We do have a question in the chat, Shannon,
Sure.
from Julie King. She said, do you think resilience is something we are born with or can it be learned?
Well, I welcome other ideas in the room. My sense, my thought is that we are born with resilience. Um, we're a human race, right? Look how far we've come. Um, Look how far we've come, not just as terms of being a human race, because that's a deeply historical reference. Look how far we've come in the last year. Look how far we've come in the last 6 months. Or if you look at, and I'm not going to go into detail, but if you look at my day yesterday, where there were tears and anxiety and lots of deep conversation, it was a really hard day. Look how far we've come since yesterday.
I would also love to say, look who's here and focusing on this despite the noise and the chaos and everything just of this week, which is not our focus today. But just your presence here and your ability to focus and be present on Shannon's lesson and try to connect that to your life is resilience.
And there's a couple of different comments in the chat. I can read a little bit of a couple of them. Someone says, and I agree with, I love the hope from neuroplasticity. We are not stuck. I'll add my own opinion to that. I think that when people find out about this, it's like finding hope again. And every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I made a mistake, but it's not forever. And then Adam put, new law. If someone calls you resilient, you get paid 1 week vacation. I think we all can agree. Joy shared, I struggle with it sometimes. It's not always easy. I agree. And then Gina shared, it can be interpreted as not needing help.
Mm. Wow, yes. Yeah, yeah. And that I think is where, Julie, your initial question about whether it can be learned, I think well, that's part of the learning. And I don't know if it's learning or, yeah, it's learning and practicing the balance that inevitably comes with being resilient.
Noah
So
added to that too, Shannon, by the way.
say it again.
Noah in the chat added to that same topic,
Oh,
and it's kind of mirroring what you're saying as well.
yeah. I love that share about it's being resilient as a badge, as something we wear means that people, or there's a perception that we don't need help. And so the practice is to hold both of those things at the same time and to ask for help, to build community that you can rely on, even if that's just a group of friends that you text every now and again. Or maybe it's folks that you meet today and you create a cohort to grab coffee. How do we practice being resilient and saying yes to that? And then yes, anding it by saying, and I also have capacity. Or yes, and sometimes I'm going to tell you no. Sometimes I'm going to delegate. Julie says, I believe I was born resilient. I love that we practice it, though some have asked me how they can learn to be more resilient. Anyone have any thoughts on Julie's thought there, or does that resonate with anyone? This idea of being asked potentially by people who you lead or who rely on you. Yes, Carolyn.
Thank you, Shannon. I think it's such a great question. It's something that comes up for me a lot. And in my experience, resilience requires a certain amount of letting go, really leaning into our authenticity around capacity and giving each other and ourselves, right? Starting with ourselves, but giving each other some grace, giving
Yeah.
ourselves some grace. So for me, resilience is, it's a response, and it's also a proactive way of carving out space to heal, to nourish, to support each other so that we can continue to be able to respond.
Beautiful. Kind of reminds me of when you're on an airplane and they say, put your air mask on first or whatever, yeah, if we're at capacity and we're burnt out and we're tired, then how can we be of service? Thank you. I see Gina says, I don't think people outside of this universe understand the challenges and the impact on the people that we serve. Many times we walk alone with our convictions and our purpose. So it's very nice to be with you all. Thank you, Gina. And Maggie says, I think people forget that resilience can also be a community response. You do not have to be resilient alone, and by having support from others, your resilience can increase. And Maggie also says, one drop of water is not much, but you put them together and you get a river or an ocean. Yeah. Yeah. Super quick personal anecdote. I went to sleep the other night it doesn't matter. I was in a state of stress, and I kept thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I just tried to ease myself back to sleep. And it ultimately worked by reminding myself, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of people doing this work. I am not alone. And on this call, you are one of 50. You are not alone. All right. Thumbs up if we're okay to move on. I want to make sure we're leaving enough space to share. Okay. And this is great, a great parlay, this conversation we just had. We were reading one another's minds. As leaders, nonprofit leaders, you're in the business of resilience, right? And catalyzing change is hard work. There's only one you. There's one Laura. There's one Carolyn. There's one Gina. There's one Maggie. So what does nurturing your resilience look like for you? Howard Thurman had a quote. I have it plastered on my screensaver. It's on my wall. I journal about it all the time. And here's what it is. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and then go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Now, of course, the work that we all do is about asking what the world needs, of course. And there's many ways to peel back this onion. I could do a whole workshop just on this quote. The way that I see this and the way that I invite us to see this together today is, how can we take care of this vessel, our own body, mind, spirit, so that by identifying what it is that we stand for as an individual on this earth at this time, because if we have an understanding of that, then we can really come alive and do the work that we need. So, keeping this quote in mind, and I'll just read it again so you can hear it audibly in your brain. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and then go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Here is my little thought experiment. Some things to consider around your own version of aliveness. I'll give just a couple of minutes. Maybe you want to jot some notes, think it through, which is great. And then I'm hoping this works. Give me a second. what I'd like to do, I just put into the chat a link to a word cloud generator. I've got my fingers and my toes work across that this works without any glitches, so we'll see. Otherwise, we will yes and move on. What you should see when you open it up, though, is the prompt. What brings you a sense of aliveness? Great. I see some people already putting some thoughts into the word cloud. And I will share when it's done. And my thought too was to make this into a graphic and give it to Becca and the team to share out after the webinar today. And for those who are familiar or not familiar with word clouds, generally, assuming this website works the same way, the ones that brighten or enlarge on the screen are the ones that more than one person has mentioned. Awesome. Me too, Alejandra. And what I'm really picking up on here is there's an emphasis on creativity. I see writing and literature and yeah, it's art. I see art. And then of course, connecting with others, love, spirituality, God. Joy adds in the chat, joy, aptly named. Dogs, yes. Although mine is pouting because I'm late taking him out for a walk. I think they really can pout. Is that, I don't know. Does anyone else feel that way? He like snubs me. It's funny. Oh, yoga. I'm a yoga person too. Lovely. My doggos. Yes. Yes, Catherine, thank you. Yeah, beautiful. So what I thought I would do after this is oh, here, I'll put the website back in. Did you get that, Samuel? Hopefully that came across. What I thought I would do.
I got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Do a nice job. Thank you.
No problem. Julie's cat tries to my dog, if my hands are on my lap or my keyboard, my dog will put his nose on it and like try to get my hand off. Great. Well, the thought is I will take this and throw it into Canva or something that just kind of makes a pretty graphic with some colors and something that we might want to grab a hold of, maybe print it out, keep it with you, share it with your team. And this website, by the way, if you do ever facilitate remotely or have team meetings remotely, check it. Well, you'll see what website it is on in the link. It's free, and I think it takes up to 100 participants. Some don't do that. Some charge you after a certain number. So just take note if that's at all helpful. I discovered it today. And can you all see all of the words on the bubble, or is that just me? I want to make sure I'm talking to something that we're all looking at. You can all see the words? Okay.
We can't see it on your screen, but we can see it if we've clicked through the link. So you're still sharing the slides.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. Great. Are you looking? Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint.
You can see it.
Okay, great. Now the follow-up to this, and this is an invitation. I don't know if anyone here keeps a journal, or maybe it's a conversation starter or something to just ponder when you're walking your dog. When's the last time you felt this sense of aliveness? Is there anything that's working or not working, or anything that needs to shift? If it's art, if it's writing, if it's dancing, if it's being with friends, are you prioritizing that? Are you making those things fit into your inevitably very busy life? And if not, what might need to shift? Okay, so today is look back to see forward. And this is an exercise that it's a little bit gamified, so it's kind of fun that way. And this is really just an opportunity to get your pen and paper, maybe make a couple of notes if that's helpful. And of course, you will get this presentation. So if you don't get to this today, or if you want to think about it a little bit further, great. And here's what it is. I call it the 5-finger reflection. 5 fingers. Your thumb, and this is kind of, let's take maybe 2024, or if it feels better, take last week, whatever's most resonant to you. But to look back and reflect on, your thumb means what's going right, right? Thumbs up, something that's awesome. Your pointer finger, what are you moving towards? What are you moving towards? Your middle finger is just what you think it is. But I put it here just to be a little PC. What would you like to take a hike? Do away with. Your ring finger, what do you want to honor or vow to do? And your pinky, what have you been neglecting? And neglecting is kind of a hard word, but what have you been that you said, oh gosh, I do that thing and I forgot and I just love it so much? What is that little thing that you might want to put a spotlight on? Or maybe it's little for a reason. Maybe its season is up and it's time to move on to something else. I'm going to I'll just give us kind of a short little stint here, 60 seconds to kind of put pen to paper and maybe think a little bit about looking back to see forward. Let's give us maybe 30 more seconds. Totally recognize that you may not get to all your reflections, but you'll have this to think through later too. Okay. All right. Again, this is something that may feel useful to you when you're potentially gathering your team together to think about what's next for the business, for the organization. Maybe it's an offsite, or maybe it's a lunch meeting. And the gate kind of making it playful can feel a little bit easier and more accessible. I mean, February is the new January. So if you haven't had those conversations yet, don't you worry. Plenty of time. All right. Feel free to share in the chat anything that has come up for you. Oh, thank you for helping each other out. Yeah. And Becca says there may be something whose season has passed. Yeah. Yeah. Great. So we just have a couple of minutes. I wanted to share with you some tips and tools for balance and well-being. I'll touch on these. And then there is, as I mentioned, a free download that I'm going to put the link in the chat just a minute here that you can grab some additional resources to the ones I'm about to share. So the next 3 slides are pause, play, practice, and prioritize. So pause. These practices could include contemplative practice like meditation, yoga. It could also mean taking a step away from your computer, taking that walk around the block, doing a stretch, taking a time out, saying no. In the flow of conversation, pause could also mean using the wait principle. Why am I talking? Why am I talking? And I think I learned that I believe it originated in the 12-step program. It's part of that foundational body of work, and I just love it. Why am I talking? Wait. And I do plenty of workshops around intentional listening and presence, but this is just a reminder about all the things we can do to pause. Play. One of the grandfathers of improv, his name is Keith Johnstone. He's a Canadian. He's passed away a few years ago, just after COVID. And he used to say, adults are atrophied children. We forget to play. We take ourselves so seriously. We have so many things to do and so many places to be. And really, do we? Because what are we really here for? And play is so important. And there's all sorts of bodies of research that really back this up. Stuart Brown has a book called, I think it's just called Play. And there's all sorts of science and data that back up how important it is to play. Talk about neuroplasticity. That's a huge way to do it. Yes. Oh, yes, Leah, I love that. One of my little reminders for myself in 2025 is to be bored more often. Sip tea and stare out a window. Don't listen to a podcast on a walk, right? Prioritize. Of course, we could spend weeks talking about prioritization techniques, but it's another practice or a set of practices. And you'll find some of the practices that I use to help myself prioritize and really keep what's most important at the top in the download that I'll share. One of those resources is identifying what your core values are, knowing those through and through, and practicing those on the daily. I will include that and share that. A reflection wheel, sometimes called a life wheel, It's a practice to really gauge where you fall and where you plot your current place across different categories of your life, and then really using that data to determine what's working and what's not. A dear friend asked me this question once and I couldn't answer it. It's the easiest question. It's the hardest to answer. Are you prioritizing what you say is important to you? Becca, these are just the last couple of slides here and I'll hand it over to you, I promise. I'm going to leave you with this one too. I use this every day. GLAD, G-L-A-D. It's a gratitude practice that has 4 components, and I usually do it to look back on my day. What am I grateful for? What have I learned? What have I accomplished? And what have I delighted in? What left me with a sense of delight? Tip of the iceberg stuff, guys, but I really wanted to share those with you. And that's why I created this this download. Because I think there's more in there. There's some walkthroughs, templates, instructions. And I'm actually realizing I don't think I put the values workbook in there, which is my bad. So if the values workbook sounds interesting or intriguing to you, maybe just put a thumbs up in the chat and I'll make sure to work with Becca to get you that resource in the follow-up. That's it, my friends. I so appreciate you. I would love to stay connected with you. I keep being true to your capacity. That's the best, that's the number one takeaway I'd say as far as being resilient. And I love all the engagement we've had. Thank you, CTN, and thank you everyone on the call. Keep doing the good work and I'll see you on the flip side.
Shannon, thank you so much. This could not have come at a better time. And you're such a delight to listen to as well. You're clearly a speaker and a teacher because you said, and Becca, I know these are my last few slides for attention to time. I just have a couple of closing comments, everyone, and you've asked so many questions in chat. Shannon has been very generous to provide these downloads to sponsor our first webinar of 2025, and we will be sending out an informative email to all of you very early next week with a link to this video as well as a link to the resources that she has shared. Shannon has been so proactive in working with us to plan this session. And geez Louise, if it wasn't just perfect timing for this week, we were going into it thinking it would just be a great way to kick off the year, which of course it is. And an important reminder for leaders and givers in our jobs, which of course it is. But wow, it almost seems like divine timing. I hope you can see my slides because I just want to finish up with a couple of things. Shannon, can you nod if you can see your lovely face on my slides? Thank you. Everyone, just in closing, a couple of important announcements. Please mark your calendar because our next webinar is going to be February 27th. You can find the registration link on our events tab on CTN's website, and I will also send it in the email follow-up to everyone. Our topic is going to be cultural responsiveness, and we're going to get quite comprehensive and practical with this. CTN is approaching our 17th year, and in that time, we have learned a lot of important and practical lessons about how to be responsive and proactive in working with other cultures. We're actually going to have a panel that includes Cami and includes some leaders of other nonprofits to talk about specifically what works for them, what they've learned that didn't work for them, and what they can offer to others. So please mark your calendars for February 27th. It's going to be a really great one. And just before we do our giveaways, please take note of this link. If you're enjoying these free webinars, and I see so many repeat peeps, I know you are enjoying these, you can help them continue. CTN is a nonprofit organization, and our LIFT team brings these resources to you each month as a courtesy of our program, free of charge and ongoing, because we believe that digital inclusion is key for communities to not only survive, really survive right now, but thrive in today's world. Knowledge is power. If you have found value, or if your organization has found value in today's webinar, please consider supporting our mission and make a small donation today. Every penny counts, $5, $10, $20, by following this link. We're passionate about connecting with you and continuing these vital conversations. And whether or not you donate, we appreciate you. And now we are going to give away some things. We're going to give away 3 free enrollments to our online asynchronous course, Managing Digital Navigators. This actually includes resilience tips as well. Good management tips that are not only ways to keep the work going, but ways to keep the people going, emotionally, mentally, intellectually. So if you are here, I'm going to stop my share now. If you're here, please just drop a note in the chat or quickly unmute and say, hey, I'm here. Here is our random drawing. Do we have Gina Gates Lopez? Gina, okay, I'll follow up with you with your free enrollment. Do we have, and forgive me for mispronunciation, do we have Chip Supanik? Oh, I see Chip right there, and I probably butchered your last name, and I am so sorry, so sorry. And do we have Laura von Matre? Von Maiden? Oh, I see Laura too. Laura, I'm...
Laura, yeah, thanks.
Okay, well, I will follow up with all of you for your free enrollment in our course. A big, huge thank you again to Shannon, who is helping all of us out on this call on a personal and professional level, and she will be sending additional resources. Everybody, be strong and continue that good work, team. And we will see you on February 27th. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.